Now for global business updates, we have a man freshly returned. He was just arrived from Davos, attending the World Economic Forum. Rotus Oddiri, he joins us now.
Good morning, Doctor. And you're very familiar. Thank you, sir. You're very familiar with the Davos terrain as well. Good morning, Aya. Good morning, Rufai.
You are showing me some things this morning that is scaring my heart.
A lot of experience with travel. We thank God. Yes, indeed. Good morning to all our viewers. We begin, as always, with what to watch this week. It's a very, very packed week. Central bank decisions, lots of earnings coming out for a number of companies. So today we have Sophie, technology company, AT&T, releasing their earnings. Tuesday, tomorrow, we've got General Motors, JetBlue, and Boeing. Everybody's going to be looking at Boeing with all the struggles we've captured here. Wednesday, many of the Magnificent Seven, Tesla, Meta, Microsoft, and you also have the Federal Reserve decision. Dr. Abati has teased this several times. We get that decision from the Fed. Thursday, we get the ECB and the South Africa Reserve Bank. We get more earnings with Visa and Apple. And then Friday, we get Chevron, ExxonMobil, I think CPI for Europe as well. I think a number of Eurozone nations. So oil prices, of course, you've already talked about the back and forth between Colombia and the US, which kind of initially when the tariffs were announced by Trump, oil prices did dip. So maybe they might climb after the agreement was reached by both nations. WTI 74.17, that's down. Brent crude 77.99. These, of course, were above 80 earlier, but they're down. Natural gas down as well. So the Asian markets, mixed bag, but China stocks, particularly technology stocks in China and Hong Kong, doing pretty well. I'm going to get to Deepseek in a moment, but Shanghai up 19 basis points, Hang Seng in Hong Kong 80 basis points. The Nikkei was down because some tech stocks in Japan fell. Kospi in Korea, I hear the president has been indicted now on some charges, so insurrection or whatever. So Kospi was up despite that update. Then to the Deepseek, which is what's been making the news. So basically, the Chinese, they have come up with this AI product. It's been around for a little while, but it's launched and it actually was pretty popular on the app stores for Apple and so on and so forth. Lots of search around DeepSeek. Apparently, the story is this: it uses less advanced chips, GPUs from NVIDIA. It also basically is cheaper than the amount of money that is being pumped in the United States for this particular large language model that the Chinese have put forward. So it is on the NASDAQ, the futures actually fell because investors are saying, well, can we justify all this money that Microsoft pumping $13 billion into OpenAI, Google Gemini, so much money there, Apple, look at all this money that the US tech Silicon Valley is pumping into artificial intelligence. Can it be justified if China can do it at a cheaper rate? And you've seen this, as Rufai has talked about, with electric vehicles and so on and so forth. We'll go get Tesla's earnings this week. The cost of producing a Chinese vehicle is much less than it is to a Chinese electric vehicle, much less than a vehicle over in the United States or in the West generally. So DeepSeek is really rocking stocks in the US as we speak. And I guess we'll get more information on the technology from the Chinese. Moving from there to something that you already discussed, pretty much. Colombia and the U.S. Actually reaching a deal on migrants. You already touched on this earlier. Gustavo Petro refused a plane that was carrying migrants from the U.S., which Donald Trump said was illegal migrants. I think he says it was because it was on a military plane that should come on a civilian plane. I guess the update is now is that he's offering a plane from Colombia to bring them. Trump put out that Truth Social post threatening 25% tariffs and then rising to 51% in a week. Now, Colombia accepted the terms because the U.S. is Colombia's largest trading partner. About 30% of Colombia's exports, from coffee to flowers. Valentine's Day is next month. To flowers and some other little exports. But for the U.S., Colombia is not even in top 20 when it comes to trading. So they had to capitulate and eventually agree to these particular terms. So that's on that. Now, still on the trade side, coming to Africa, and I know Bosun Amofaya is in Tanzania. Tanzania for Energy Week. President Tinubu is over there. But I do want to, shout out This Day newspaper, Nigeria's newspaper of record. 30th anniversary awards coming up. So, I want to give them their flowers. They've done great work. This is an article in today's This Day newspaper online. Chatham House, Trump may sideline Africa's development and emphasize bilateral deals. How many times has Donald Trump mentioned Africa since he came into office? Can anyone tell me? If anyone
invite any African leader to his inauguration.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
None. Like, he has not mentioned Africa. Anyway, let me get to the quotes from the excerpts on this new report from Chatham House. Don't forget, he wants oil prices lower, which is going to impact like your Angolas, your Nigerians, because they export oil and they wanted a higher prices. Following the inauguration of Trump as U.S. president on 20th January, expectations point to selective U.S. engagement in Africa. The Trump administration could prioritize U.S. strategic interests, potentially sidelining African economic development with a greater emphasis on bilateral deals. And you remember that Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who of course is the recipient of the Woman of the Year award from this state, did say that she, doesn't really, bilateral deals don't really work. She prefers the multilateral deals compared to bilateral deals. Let me quickly touch on that second quote. Trump has also threatened to impose 100% tariffs on BRICS members, which now includes Egypt and Ethiopia, in addition to South Africa, who is hosting the next G20, if the group pushes forward with its proposal to create a rival currency to the US dollar. And then, most importantly, is AGOA, which is an agreement between the US and Africa. So if you check that last quote from them on AGOA, they basically said essentially that it is, it's questionable now. So basically, the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which grants African nations duty-free access to the U.S. markets for specific products, faces uncertainty, but is likely to be renewed this year in a more transactional form, potentially narrowing tariff-free access. So that's our updates for today.
Thank you very much, Rotus.
Thank you, Dr. Good to be back in a warm climate.
You left out oil.
Yes.
When Trump repeated on Friday that OPEC should lower prices, Brent crude went down 1.1%.
Yeah.
WTI futures went down 1.9%.
Yep.
So Trump is shaking up
everywhere, shaking everywhere.
Thank you very much.